Time to talk some racing, and for this episode, for this edition with my friend Barry Spears, we're going to talk all about Aqueduct for Saturday, Cigar Mile Day. But right now, it's that time of the year. We're in the holiday season, Christmas just a few weeks away. If you have a friend, someone in your family, a loved one that is a horse player, you have to get them the DRF gift card. You know they're going to be using those past performances, clocker reports, betting strategies. So just get them stocked up. Let them take care of whatever they need from shop.drf.com. It's a great Christmas present, right, Barry, for someone that loves to play the races and they're playing with and using the DRF. Like, help them out. That way they can play some days for free and not even have to worry about spending on their past performances or their info.
Other than buying somebody a horse, getting past performances at no cost is like the best thing ever.
Right? Yeah, absolutely. And it's a really fun time of the year right now because we're getting all the changes in the meets, the transitions from one meet closing and then the new meets opening up. We just had Gulfstream Park open up last week for Thanksgiving. Fairgrounds just got underway. Oaklawn's opening this week. You and I are recording on Thursday. Turfway Park got underway on Wednesday night. They had some crazy big fields last year, and they look like they're going to have a really strong season again this year. Santa Anita will be opening up in just a few weeks. Always feels like kind of Gulfstream and like Santa Anita, kind of like the unofficial start, right, to the season when like the year when they open back up. So, yeah, it's a really fun time again right now. And you and I are going to be talking about none of those tracks that I mentioned because Aqueduct has a really good card with the stakes races underneath the Cigar Mile, but the Grade 2 Cigar Mile is going to be the main course, the feature race, and it is a really, really competitive race this year. It's strong group. It's a good betting race. You don't necessarily have one head and shoulder stand out. You have 3 or 4 horses that are probably going to vie for favoritism, and then after that, another couple that certainly could win with the right kind of trip. So from a betting standpoint, you and I will talk about the late pick 4. We'll take a quick peek at race 4, which is the Go for Wand. I had some fun handicapping these races, even without any turf to look at. I thought some really competitive races and some value.
Yeah, this is a really good card. Even this Go for Wand, the first race we're going to go over is really competitive. I mean, all these horses have like the same running style, and it's hard to decipher. And the horse that I ended up going with, or kind of like in here, is Shibuti. It seems like the lone closer in this field, and this might come off as a rider's race when it's all said and done.
They put this race early because it looks like it's a smaller field, and you have a couple horses that'll be sort of tough at shortish prices. You have Tizzy in the Sky, who ran into Randomize and Idiomatic last time out, has faced some really good ones. Occult, same sort of thing. Ran a good race behind Idiomatic, faced Scylla a couple starts back. I mean, if you go through Idiomatic, Scylla, Kijera, any of those horses on their best day, even back to last year, Ceiling Crusher, pretty mischievous. She's lost to some really, really nice ones. And then to the outside, you were talking about Sheeta Booty, who was very, very good last time out. You go through some of the horses that she lost to too. Society, a couple starts back, who's quick, and she'll have a tough time in races where there's not a lot of speed or she won't get as much of a setup. But going a mile, she can sit a little closer also. And that was a good race from her last time out. That was like a really nice effort, and it should set her up third start off the bench.
Yeah, the class relief is all the difference. You know, she's been banging heads with the best of them, and just coming up a little bit short. And I think she's finds a field that's just a notch below what she's been racing against, and should sit a good trip. I think there's plenty of speed in here. The pace should be honest, and that one should get a really good trip, I think.
Sheeta Booty could offer you a little bit of value. For me, I thought if you were looking for a little bit of value, comparative is intriguing, just especially because this barn is going so well. And they're certainly capable of getting a horse ready off the bench. And you could see she got really good. She always showed a little bit of ability. She always kind of teased. Then she had an issue on an off track where she just didn't finish a race, kind of got pulled up after some trouble. Following that, She won her second start back. She won a couple races in a row, and she won like 5 out of 6 races in one stretch. Won the Bayakoa last year, got good. Then you can see she had traffic in a race, and then she just kind of tailed off, and she's been off for a while. So most of her form makes a lot of sense. Can she get back to where she was at the, at the apex of her form? If she can, I think she fits really well. She'll probably still need a race for her best, but if you're looking for a little bit of value, I thought she might be able to offer you some if she's like 5-1 or above. Not if she gets bet all that much. You don't want to take a short price on her. And then a cult is obvious in here. Is you just look at the form, and I went through the horses that she faced. She's going to be probably a little closer in here too. I wouldn't be shocked if they want to get her close. I could see the inside horses showing some speed and her trying to sit not too far behind them. So not necessarily the best betting race in the world. They put it earlier on the card because of that, but some intriguing runners here in the Go for Wand, the grade 3 Go for Wand, which is race number 4 at Aqueduct on Saturday. Barry, let's move to the late pick 4 sequence, because this one has 3 graded stakes races right in a row, and then we'll talk about race number 10 as the closeout race, just for anyone else who's playing any of the multi-exotics and could be looking for a little bit of help to try to close things out. So we moved to the 7th, the Remsen, which really wasn't a race that had produced a lot of quality 3-year-olds for a little while. I mean, you go through some of the runners: WNL, Mo Donegal, Brooklyn Strong, Shotsky, Maximus Mischief, Catholic Boy, Motown, Mohayman, Leave the Light On. Not a ton of horses who were successful in Derby, Preakness, and Belmont races. But then last year, you have Dornick and you have Sierra Leone in the race.
And domestic product.
So, yeah, think about it. We previewed this race on the DRF YouTube with Horse by Horse with David Aragona, and we're talking about it. It's like anything, any sport. It's cyclical sometimes, but that was as strong as you could possibly have last year after like some years of just not necessarily having the top tier horses win this race. But 2-year-olds in the Remsen, maybe a future star next year somewhere. Let's take a look at this field, Barry. We have Tux, who debuted back in November on the 9th and was good. Sat a pretty nice trip, though. Was able to sit just behind the leaders. Got outrun a little bit heading into the top of the lane. Had to be asked a bit, but then he looked like a horse who is a distance horse. So while he has to go from 6.5 to 1 1/8, visually he looked like he wanted to go a little bit longer. The 5, Keewaydin, is coming off of a really good effort. Took a big step forward from first start to second start, but was good in the first start too. Lost to a horse named Tip Top Thomas, Barry, who came back, and Tip Top Thomas was second against Graded Stake Company in his second start in the Champagne behind Chancellor McPatrick. The second place finisher, Rookie Card, he has since come back and broke his maiden and won by 5. So he's also a nice horse. The 4th place finisher from that race, Sovereignty, he went over and won the Street Sense, the grade 3 at Churchill, and he's been very good. So this was a strong race, no doubt about it. And then the 5 came back and broke his maiden in his second start. Now he'll have to stretch out to 1 1/8, but he's shown the progression a little bit. Those 2 are the ones that'll take the most money. So just from a starting point, those are the major players in here. But I'll pass the baton to you, my friend. Do you like either one of them? You think either one of them are the horse to beat? And then maybe elsewhere, who are some of the others?
Yeah, Keewaydin's got to be viewed as the horse to beat here. Just off the speed figures and the way that the public bets these kind of races, Keewaydin's probably going to get a bulk of the action, and deservedly so. I mean,
Yeah.
if that horse can back up those speed figures stretching out, it's going to be real tough in this spot. But it's not impossible to beat that horse here.
No, and to kind of like, I think the speed figures are good. And mentioning that debut race, those horses were very good, and they've come back strong. Then in the most recent race, it was a field of 5, and one of the horses
like a walkover.
Well, and one of the horses basically was pulled up early or just completely distanced. So it was really a field of 4, and he wasn't beating much. The horse that he beat, named Volt, came back in his next start. He stretched out. He had a little trouble, but he just didn't fire. So it's hard to get a gauge on how strong that race was also. So yeah, again, still lightly raced 2-year-olds, things can change. And some
Sure.
other horses in here who are intriguing. Who else were you looking at maybe?
Studley Do Right, I
Yep,
think, is the horse that is the trip horse. Probably get the best trip out of everybody and just needs to be good enough. I mean, the horse has all the elements of being good in the spot. The foundation, the horse has 6 races, 2 at a mile, with 1 win at a mile. Um, all the credentials are there. The horse, passes the class test. Just needs to get a little bit faster, but I think the equalizer is the pace scenario here, and I think it might get a little fast up top. So you got to think Studley Do Right and maybe
completely agree. Those are the two for me.
Aviator Gooey, or I'm not really sure how you want to say that, but
I went
uh,
Guy. Yeah.
yeah, Aviator Guy. That's the other horse that's kind of a closer. Probably would be farther back than anybody else.
Yeah. And what's like Studley Do Right where you were getting at, he's probably winning these races in races he's not supposed to be winning or running that well. Based on his running style. I always think it's really impressive with a horse like this winning so early on when they don't have really any early speed at
Mhm.
all. And look who he's faced, some really nice horses. One of his losses came to Moplex in a strong race. Moplex, who's grade 1 placed. We see him behind Chancellor McPatrick. Yeah, I think he makes a whole lot of sense in here. And I like the fact that he was able to sit a little closer last time out as they've stretched out a little more. That's just showing some versatility. I thought the 2 was real interesting. I thought you can make a whole lot of sense. The debut race was solid, and then he takes the step forward like you want. It was a race that was taken off the turf. So sometimes I really want to look at those races and see how strong they are because they can come up soft, right? If it's supposed to be on the grass and a bunch of horses scratch. But this race was not. The second place finisher, Cyclone State, came back in his next start and he won. He earned an 82 Beyer speed figure in doing so. Third place finisher, Hands of Time, came back in his next start. He won. That one was on the turf, but he earned a 72 Beyer speed figure in that one. And then the next one, Sounds Like a Plan, also came back and won. And then they took a shot with him in a stakes race. So that was a strong group, even though it was a race that was taken off the turf. It came back pretty live. Then Aviator Guy tried the turf. It wasn't awful, just didn't really run all that, like didn't run the same type of race that he did on the dirt. I think he just comes back to the dirt now. And like we said, he's going to get a setup that Studley Do Right's going to get in here. If you're looking to beat the 5, it's probably because the 5 with the 1 drew the rail. He's got to go a
Poster,
little bit, right?
poster.
Poster's got to go. And you could even see horses, like Gun Trader trying to go and sit close from the outside. So yeah, I think we kind of sniffed out the 2 horses that feel like they could get the trips and be be offering you a little bit of value in the 2 and the 4.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there should be, I think, like 2 distinct flights in this race.
Yes.
Like you said, those 3 horses up front, and then kind of everybody else lining up to see where they're gonna sit until it's time to go. And it should be an interesting race, to
Yep.
say the least.
Yeah, this is the grade 2 Remsen. We'll see who will be getting excited for as they head into their 3-year-old season. Race number 7 on Saturday at Aqueduct. So this kicks off the late pick 4 sequence. We'll go through this pick 4. Next up, it's the Demoiselle. So the Remsen is for the 2-year-old boys. The Demoiselle is for the 2-year-old fillies. So you get the 2-year-old gals here going a mile and an eighth. Muhima from the inside. She'll be favored in this one. She's won her 2 starts very easily. She has 2 better Beyer speed figures than anyone in this race, which is an angle you mentioned sometimes, Barry. The
Yes,
one,
indeed.
I guess the one negative, or what I will say, is that she'll have to show us she can get the mile and an eighth. She moves from 6.5 to 7 to a mile and an eighth, and both of her wins, she's been right to the outside of the leader, getting like that perfect soft trip just off the speed, never really having to worry about much. And now she draws the inside in a big field with likely at least a couple of speeds to probably put some pressure on her. So I think she's definitely the horse to beat with what she's done. We really don't even know she could be way better than what we've seen, but she'll probably have to get a different trip in here.
Yeah, I mean, that's tough to take at I think 4 to 5. I
Oh
think
yeah.
this horse is on the morning line. So
Yep.
that's hard to take on a horse on the rail stretching out for the first time. A lot can happen, and it does often when you're buried down on the inside. I mean, you just look at any races at Keeneland; it almost happens every start.
Yep.
So I'm not so sure, you know, doing this for the first time in a grade 2 is the place to take a horse like this.
Yeah, I'm just in the way I'm projecting the race to play out early. Like the 2 Liam in the Dust was not able to get as close last time out as I think they would like. I don't necessarily know if they want to be on the front end, but the first 3 races, in particular the first couple, this horse was really quick. And then last time didn't run poorly, came from off the pace a little bit.
It looked like they changed tactics.
Yeah, and that
That's what
might have
I
been
thought.
just like a choice, right?
Yeah.
But now I think when that happens and you lose to a horse like this and you get beat by that much, you say, okay, we have to get closer to this
Right.
horse early. We can't let there be that much separation, especially with a guy like Pratt jumping aboard, who's really good in making that decision, right? Making that call. So I think at the very least, you have the 2 who's probably going to put some pressure on that one. And Michelle comes out of a 6 furlong sprint, wasn't too far out of that one. Bless the Broken has shown some versatility. You have 5 Aside, who I wouldn't be shocked if they sit closer. The horse that I actually picked on top, Barry, was the 8, Beauty Reigns. I think we can look at her part of her debut at least, because I thought was pretty good. It actually kind of reminds me, like visually, it looks a little bit like the debut of Tux in the race that we just looked at earlier in the Remsen, where you have this horse like forwardly placed. The 8 is who we're watching here. This Beauty Reigns, and she's able to like naturally have some speed. She's sitting off a little bit. She kind of battles for a bit. Now she backs off to second. What I like is right here where she kind of moves to the lead, but she gets headed. She gets passed. But then she comes back and kind of puts that horse away and stretches out, looking to me like she's a horse who should be able to go longer. Like right here, she's kind of passed.
Yeah, no, definitely headed.
And now you see her kind of just shaking up a little bit. And she's really able to draw off and kind of put that one away.
Good learning experience, you know.
Yeah, I like horses, I like races like that where you're tested and then just geared down late. So you got that little like punch, you counter punched, you came back, and then you're able to kind of gear the horse a little down late. So I thought visually was pretty nice. I like her in here, and I think she could, like we saw, she can sit a little bit too if she has to.
The only thing that bothers me, and I know I'm not, a confirmation or pedigree expert by any means. I usually kind of stay away from it, to be honest. That horse looks to me like a sprinter.
Looks visually smaller, right?
Looks compact, short, fat.
Yep.
Big butt. That's what that horse looks like. Now, obviously, there's horses that can get distance that look like that.
And it's early on, but no, you're right. Visually, the horse looked just smaller.
So either she's just developed way before everybody else, or she's just a tank, and some of that is stuff that I'm starting to look at more, and it's not gospel obviously, but I do take note of that kind of thing. But there's a horse in here I find really, 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 really interesting, and that's the 3 Fortuna Mia, and I'm sure you're gonna know why, because this horse was on a nice layoff from August 18th to November 2nd, stretched out to a mile, and just jumped up and ran a better race going longer. And I think this horse can build on that. There's some upside here with this horse coming into this race. I think this horse is going to be closer up to the pace. The pace is probably going to be quicker for her, and I think she merits a good shot at a big price. At 15-1 morning line, she's probably going to drift up, because Linda Rice doesn't typically win these kind of races. She has and does in the past, but she's more of a claimer kind of type.
She was a private purchase for this one a few starts back, and so they private purchase gave her a shot in a couple stakes races. She was behind in a few races we just looked at. Stunner and Impulse Buy. Stunner came back and was a little disappointing at Gulfstream Park, but then Impulse Buy went over to Churchill and was really good
ran
winning his
lights
stakes
out.
races,
And Queen's
winning his
MG
stakes.
and the Queen's MG, was really precocious back in the
Yep,
summer.
absolutely.
And
Win a couple of those races.
I think everybody caught up to that horse at this point, and
Absolutely. But
that's why this race in particular really intrigues me with this horse, because it wasn't that far off of the Queen's MG in here, and you can just estimate that if the Queen's MG is going backwards, these other horses are going up. So a horse like Fortuna Mia, given that last race, the improvement, should have another jump up.
Vodka with the twist, who you see in the running lines, was second in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Filly. She'll be back this weekend running in the Starlet at Los Al. So Fortuna Mia, price horse that Barry's looking at, one that's on his radar. Let me give you a couple that I thought were visually like nice and interesting. I'm going to use Michelle at least in underneath spots. It's just a lot to ask for this horse going from 6 to a mile and 8th. And you're coming over here, you're facing better. But I liked her race. I really did at Laurel. And this is a good barn. And I think this horse has some ability. It's just, that's a lot to ask. Bless the Broken had some legit trouble in that race last time out. Bless the Broken was close up, was in some traffic, had to back up to 4th, was in between, kept trying, hoping to get in, find a way through. It was about 3 lengths off or so, and then moved to the outside. Really got going late in the 5 path to just miss. Was a bit unlucky. The blinks come off. 3rd start of the form cycle. Bless the Broken has a little more speed too than was able to show last time out. Wouldn't be shocked to see this one sitting in a really nice spot. So a couple price horses that were on my radar. What do we do with the 10, Barry? The wild card.
Those are the horses that you kind of, they're tough reads. I mean, the horse has ability, but the post
and distance won't be a problem.
Right, distance isn't a problem, but it's
but no speed really early.
Where are they going to go? Right, what kind of trip?
And we got to see how they'll take to the dirt. She lost to the horse that you liked, Mayday Ready, and you played a few times and came back and ran well in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies turf. So she's faced good company, but she's just so tough to get a read on for me. And maybe if she is around that price, I wouldn't have a problem throwing her into a pick 4 or a pick 5 at that price. I just couldn't bet a horse like this to win or key in on this horse. Is kind of too much of an unknown for me. But the value really would what it come down to with this type of horse. Like, I wouldn't want to take 5 to 1 or lower on a horse like this with those variables. I think I just demand a little bit of value on her. So, Barry, anything else you want to hit in the Demoiselle?
No. This is a really good race, though. I mean, it's almost identical to the boys' race, to be honest. Like the setup, the favorites, and everything. It's a really interesting race, both of them.
It is. Muhima, the one they'll have to beat in here, but some quality fillies to the outside of her. I mentioned Beauty Reigns is one that'll be in the mix for me. A couple live long shots I thought were the 5 and the 6. Bless the Broken and Michelle. Barry went with Fortuna Mia as a horse who's definitely on his radar. And should have no problem with the distance based off of recent running style and could get a nice trip in here. So look at race number 8. That is the grade 2 Demoiselle. Let's move to the 9th race. This one is the grade 2 Cigar Mile. A really good race here. The 1-turn mile, you have Bookham Dano, who is a grade 1 winner who gets the inside draw, fits really well on speed figures with this group, was a little disappointing last time out in that race at Keeneland. Had some trouble down on the inside, but still was expecting a little more. You have Mulligan. Mulligan went into the Breeders' Cup Sprint, was the lukewarm favorite in there, coming off of a stretch of 4 straight wins and a couple graded stakes wins. And then Mulligan had a completely different trip. They were going just a little faster than he had been used to, so he got caught just a little wide and a little behind. But he actually ran really well coming from off the pace. I thought he was going to be done early on when he was, 8th, 5 lengths off or so, but he kept to the outside and he closed very well that day. I was really impressed with just, he had some adversity and he didn't just pack it in. He actually showed that he may have a new dimension there. It's our old buddy, Law Professor, the Law Professor Lock of the Week, who's a hard knocker. He's here, Locked. I think very interesting in this race, making his second start back after missing all of the 3-year-old years so far. and you have Senior Buscador, who was your Saudi Cup winner, actually ran an awesome race in this race last year against a crazy bias. Post time was the runner up in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. So you have, I thought, a really strong group lining up in here. You have a couple horses who are second and third in different Breeders' Cup races and are coming back in really nice form. And then others who were probably pointing to this race and looking forward to it for a while. Good betting race here, Barry.
Oh yeah, this is I think the best race on the card.
Oh, yeah.
You know, the thing about Locked, if you look at the horse's past performances just as they are, like in the former and the formulator, you see the horses that this horse has been running against, and basically all top tier horses from the start. I think that that horse, you know, after a while is just used to running this fast, just by accident, and it's going to be real tough here.
I like him a lot in this spot,
Yeah,
too.
you kind of have to. I mean, he's been running with the best, comes back off the layoff, improves a little bit. I know
So
they're
he was
going a
supposed
little
to
further.
run in the Fountain of Youth.
Hmm.
Keep in mind, this was the horse. He was the favorite in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile last year. So
He probably would have
he's
been
the,
favored in the Fountain of Youth.
oh, yeah, he was the tip top of the division.
Hmm.
And he lost when he ran third in a fine race in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile to Fierceness and Muth, who both came back and had really good years. And so you just look at him, and it doesn't always work this way. There are plenty of horses who are good early and then don't come back. But you just look at the horses who he was facing, and if he was able to show the improvement and kind of project with them, he would have been right towards the top of the division along with those horses. And even after all the time off, he shows back up. He's a little aggressive. You know, he wanted to go because he'd been off for so long, almost a year, right? Almost a full year off. And it was the perfect type of race because they didn't have to ask him for anything. It didn't take a whole lot out of him. And he ran a Barry Spears angle faster than he'd ever run before based on speed figures.
I mean, it's all the elements are there. This is one of those situations, and they come up every now and again where he kind of, I don't want to say ignore the past performances, but you got to let logic take over and understand that this horse has been running with the best horses in his age group since day one. I mean, obviously they would want that, but it hardly ever happens. Um, and then the other horse, who I think is the real deal, is Bochum Dano. I don't see how this horse doesn't work out a good trip, even despite being on the rail, because they don't really have to go. And this horse can sit, can be up front. I mean, wherever this horse wants to be, Irad can put him. And I think that's a huge advantage in a race like this. The pace should be pretty fast. Nelson Avenue is going to get out there. Mulligan obviously has some speed.
And he's got to probably go going a little longer. He's
Right,
going to
and
be really
pipeline.
close. Yep.
Right. So they're probably going to line up and put a solid pace on. But I don't think it's going to be enough for horses like Post Time and Senior
That's the
Buscador to
thing. Like
pass.
there's a couple, but I don't know. Like
They're going to be
Post
too
Time and
far
Senior
back, I think.
Buscador are going to have a tougher time. I think just with their running style. Like I like Post Time's really nice, but
He's
it's
second-itis. I mean, he's like the best like trifecta, you know, superfecta horse, because he's gonna come running every time. He just doesn't win all that often, or at least not at this level.
no,
I mean, all of his wins were at uh, Laurel, except for one. I think he had at Aqueduct.
it was a low. It was the Carter wasn't quite
Yeah,
as good of that edition. I mean, he's very nice. I bet him in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. He ran a good race. He it's probably going to be tough for him and Senior Buscador in this race, especially if like it could be where like Mulligan is the fastest. And maybe he gets not away, but like he could be in front of horses like Pipeline and the others, and they're going okay. But I think or I prefer horses like Locked, who have just way more versatility than the
a lot more
deep
upside too.
closers.
I mean,
Yeah,
we know what their style is. I mean, Locke can do a lot of different things. I mean, he
yeah.
started off as a dead closer, and has been steadily getting better and faster. And I think only distance will help that out. In this race, I would like to see this horse in the second flight, just kind of
Yep.
sitting right off
Fourth or
everybody
fifth.
and
Yeah.
waiting, and then Johnny V pushing the button at the right time like he always does.
Yeah. I think it just feels perfect for Locked. Fresh horse right now. Ready to take a big step forward, second start off the bench. Yeah, I thought Locked is good. I think I'll probably use Mulligan in some stuff too, because I think there are some chances where he could get
shake loose.
Yeah,
he
he
can
could
get
be the
away.
quickest in here. And I was really impressed with that race. You know, now, like the way that he's going to come into this race, stretching back out from 6 to a mile, like the harness racing angle. You know, you come running late in the short, you know, and now you stretch out. And the next week, you know, no, you're not stretching out necessarily in harness, but the next week after coming racing and flying late, then they put you on the front end. And I wouldn't be shocked to see Mulligan doing that here. Tons of respect for post time and for Senor Buscador, but they like Buscador.
He's really up against it, you know.
Yeah, I mean
every time, to be honest, just because of his style.
He's rounding back into form. Like the pattern for him is doing what they hoped, is getting him back into the big races, running faster. But he just like
I'd have to question that Breeders' Cup Classic number though.
Well, and the more than I don't even like. Let's say this: he finished 5th. The 4 horses who are in front of him are probably just better than him, right?
Yeah,
Sierra Leone, Fierceness, Forever Young, Newgate. So
yeah,
I'm okay with that.
Sense. Yeah,
I'm just more of like the trip. He's moving with Sierra Leone. They were right next to each other when they started moving.
Took off.
And Sierra Leone went to the outside. Senor Buscador went to the inside. He got a little bit of like kind of stop, but it was different. It just and maybe this race isn't as tough as those races. You know, maybe
True.
Maybe you don't have the tip top of those horses, but I still think it's really competitive. It's very competitive, and he just everything has to go so perfectly for him. I would probably want a bigger price than you're going to get on him in here.
What do you think he's going to be?
I mean, if he's
that's really I would love to know, because you know this horse could be anywhere.
I know that's what I mean. If you told me he was anything between 7-2 and 10-1,
right? Yeah.
Or if like on either end of the spectrum, and that's probably why he's 6-1, right in the middle of those. But yeah, it's a good betting race in a fun pick 4 sequence. So we both go with Locked. I actually think, just purely based on trip, that Law Professor could hit the board here, because he always is around, and he
likes Aqueduct a little bit.
He likes the mile. He likes Aqueduct, and he could be sitting 3rd or 4th and get the jump on some of those deeper horses, and then outfinish horses like a Post Time or a Senor Buscador, because they have too much to do. I don't know.
It's so funny about that horse, because I thought that horse was going to be excellent on the turf, and
I know
he is. He just
doesn't. Yeah,
they just never put him back on it. I mean, he's been running competitively on the dirt.
Yeah, good old
really
Law Professor.
High level.
I'm trying to think. It was way back in 2021 December.
Oh, man.
The Mathis Mile, because he was 9.
Yes,
it was 9-2 that day, because it was coming off of. One of us
he was out in California then. That's really how we remember.
It was the 3 of us with Matt. We had him that morning because it was opening day at Santa Anita. That's what it was, and we previewed that card. So Law Professor, our old friend, Locked, is the one that might be our new friend now, Barry, for you and I, if he has a good day on Saturday. Really fun cigar mile. That's race number 9 at Aqueduct on Saturday. Let's move to the 10th and final. This one is a mile, and horses that I think we can start the conversation with. You have Commuted, who showed speed last time out, finished 3rd in a similar spot, major player in this one. You have Reynolds Channel, who comes out of the Jerkins, tried Grade 1 Company a couple starts back, and then last time out, probably a race that you can give for. Didn't get a great trip there. Quick to Accuse is another one who had shown some good success against New York breds, and then was a good runner-up on October the 5th last time out. But I don't know if there's going to be a really short price in here. It'll probably be spread around a little bit.
Yeah, they all kind of look
the same, right?
You know,
yeah, they do.
You know, coming off layoffs, and
nobody. It's hard to love anybody,
right? Yeah, this is kind of if you're gonna spread in the sequence in the pick four, pick fives, pick
I thought
sixes,
this for
whatever,
sure.
this
Yeah.
this was a tough race to kind of
Yeah.
pinpoint anybody, because you have a horse like Air Defiance
That's a wild card, right?
who really was good until his first two races were really really good. And that race at Fierceness took off at Saratoga and left everybody in the dust.
Yep.
Proved to be pretty much kind of like a key race. And Air Defiance came out of that race, improved at Keeneland, and then got hurt. Something happened, and now shows up in Chad Summers' barn, which is, didn't have that on my bingo card. But I'm still guessing this horse has some ability, and this field isn't all that great.
And look at the last
Uh,
race he came out of with Montalcino, who was second in the
right.
Thanksgiving or the 103 whole band for life. Won that race at Churchill next time out. So I think he's one to use too, especially if you're going to be using a couple in this race. I think
Yeah,
you
and
want to use him. He's a high upside horse.
yeah, that's how I feel about him. And the other one I kind of keyed in on was Quick to Accuse.
Yeah, I
I
agree.
can just see this horse drowning everybody in the stretch, just by the trip that this horse is probably going to get. I mean, you can kind of assume that this horse is going to be quicker to the spot than some of these others. Uh, and if that's the case, this horse might might just motor past the front runners in the stretch and just make it look silly.
Yeah, I looked at just kind of the way the race was going to set up. You've
Hmm.
got Light the Way stretching out from sprints with the inside draw and the blinkers on. You've got the 4 commuted. I think the 2 of them for sure are going. The 5 is the total wild card, probably wants to be close up. So I'm looking at those horses definitely showing speed. Then you have Night Effect, who's drawn to the outside, should be showing speed, and even Iridescent, who's coming out of sprint races. So I thought with the combination of all of them, I ended up kind of keying in on 5, 6, 7, 8. Those were
Yeah,
the horses on my radar, because the 5 we talked all about as a wild card. You just hit on the 8, who just could get a really nice trip in here, like Aqueduct. I think fits really well. And then the 7's obvious, probably coming out of some of the better races overall. The 6, what I like, this is one of these horses that's always shown ability and then dropped in class to get that confidence building win. Linda Rice claimed, won. And now I could see this horse sitting pretty good, like one of those fall right into it trips, right? Just kind of like the one he got last time where he's sitting third or fourth, a few lengths off. The speeds go. A lot of these horses are kind of grinding from behind, and Pratt just has this horse in the right spot.
yeah. I don't even know what to make of Chad Brown dropping that horse in for 50. I mean, I guess
I know.
they were trying to get the money. If you think about it.
For the barn, yeah, for that.
Um, I don't know what to make of it. I mean, like you said, it could have been a light bulb angle.
Because the horse
If
had
it,
really only had
yeah,
one bad race, and it was like a race where he had some trouble too. The rest of his races were all
yeah,
competitive
yeah.
races against maiden special weights and some other nice horses. But yeah,
My
this is
concern would be the start. I mean, this
yeah,
horse has a lot of bad starts
yep,
or sluggish starts, and
yep,
it seems to have cost him on several occasions. So
yep.
I would tread lightly and get the price you want on that one for sure. But has the ability. You can see this horse is improving. Whatever they did after the claim is a-okay. So and Linda Rice does this. Pratt. So I mean, anybody has any right to like this horse.
Just to mention a horse that's in nice form right now, but will step up. Magnificent Mile continues to perform well. It's 3 straight really good races with speed figures that are up there and would be competitive with this group. Anyone else in here you want to mention, Barry?
No, I think we covered them all. I
Yeah,
mean, this is a really interesting way to end this card with a real kind of crapshoot sort of
it is.
race.
So, Barry, my friend, as we say goodbye to everyone, let us know all about the notorious OTB, where we can hear more of you and Chase Sessoms, the Wolf of Oaklawn. Shout out to Chase, helped me talk some NFL last week. Give us your plugs right now before we get out of here.
Yeah, me and Chase get together a couple times a week and we go over, either one or two cards, and we do every once in a while $100 budget podcast where we kind of map out plays with $100 budget for a whole day at a card using any bet. any race. So it's a little bit different. We're trying to, kind of get some people into the mode of thinking and talking about betting theory, stuff like that. We have some fun with it. So, you should give it a listen, cross pollinate with Gino and win all the money. That's what we need to do.
Always appreciate you, my friend. Thank you. And we'll be listening to you over there. Barry and I will be talking a lot of golf stream probably coming in the next few weeks up,
Oh, yeah.
leading into Santa Anita when they open in a few weeks. And really cool news because I head out to Santa Anita on a lot of the big days. Looks like Mystic Dan will be there
Nice.
for opening day at Santa Anita in the Malibu. So that should be fun. And
Derby winner.
I think Johannes will be running in
man,
a
I'd
race
love to
there
see that
too.
horse.
So in the San Gabriel, because I think could see both of those horses prepping for maybe Pegasus races, right? That would make sense.
I hope so. That would
make
great.
That would make a lot of sense. I think they've already said for Johannes that would be the plan for him to try to run in that one, and feels like it would make sense. The timing for Mystic Dan comes back, runs 7 furlongs. He could stretch out to 1 mile and an eighth, and then run in if they wanted to any of the bigger races throughout the year, like at Saudi, Dubai. That feels like it would make a lot of sense for a horse of that quality and that caliber. So could be a really, really cool opening day at Santa Anita with some big stars out there. Let's keep our fingers crossed. Still a few weeks away from that one. Everyone out there, thanks so much for hanging out with us. If you're watching on the YouTube channel, if you can do me a big favor, if you subscribe to the YouTube channel below, that's a huge help. We'd love to hear from you too. Let us know. Do you agree with Barry and myself on some of these races? Did we completely miss a horse that you think is going to win? I want to know. I had a couple folks talk me in or kind of sell me on horses last week in races that I was kind of spreading already and gave me great analysis of horses over on Blue Sky. So I know you do too. I love chatting races with all the folks out there. So please comment below on the channel or reach out anywhere on the socials. You can follow me now over on Blue Sky. It's me, Gino B. Been over on there a little bit more. And you're the same thing on that you were on Twitter over there too, Barry. Is that right?
Yep. Absolutely. Yep.
Awesome.
We got a presence on Blue Sky as well. And, spreading it around. Everybody gets some of this.
Absolutely. There's a lot of us to go around, so we'll give everybody a little bit. Thanks so much, all of you. Have a great weekend coming up. Good luck wherever you're playing the races. We hope you crush it.